After a brutal sell-off after hours yesterday, crypto is trying to recover. We're going to be talking about that. The news out of China that Evergrande is filing for bankruptcy. All of it and more today on Money Never Sleeps. All right. We are back. Money indeed never sleeps, because we saw after the show yesterday, absolute disaster in crypto. Can't wait to talk about it. Before we get going, do us a favor, hit those buttons down below, a like, a comment, share us out on social media, subscribe, most importantly, if you have not yet. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. We're not financial advisors. We're a few guys on the internet who love talking about the markets, but please do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, you, House, and I were texting yesterday. The markets were capitulating. It was an absolute bloodbath. It was right in line with when the news came out from Evergrande that they were going to be filing for bankruptcy. We saw Bitcoin get down to the low 25s. We saw ETH get down to 1540. It has tried to fight back some of those losses. It's done a decent job. But man, what an afternoon that was. And it is continuing into today.
Yeah, man. Again, I was kind of looking at the charts like half-assed, and I was texting you guys. Next thing you know, you're texting me like, "Yeah, ETH just dropped $50, down 150." I'm looking at the charts. I'm like, "What the fuck is going on right now?" It was absolutely insane. Don't get me wrong. I had a great time watching everything fall, but at the same time, for how fast everything moved, and here's the thing: I think we're far from the bottom, right? How fast things moved and progressed to the point where I saw XRP go from 58 cents to 38 cents. That just terrified me because I'm like, okay, if we're hitting some of these targets before what I think is going to be the major capitulation, which will be, macro, everything the macro that's been leading up to some type of, credit event. I was like, maybe I should be aiming for lower targets because, again, I think obviously people are going to be squeezed at some point, but we hit targets so fast, and it just shows you how fast this market can absolutely move. I think we saw close to $1 billion in liquidations yesterday in crypto. I think within the first hours, like 768 million was liquidated in the entire crypto space. So I mean, it was absolutely insane. It was bloodbath. Crypto was in free fall today, trying to buy it back, but yeah. I mean, what were your thoughts on seeing that fall that fast?
I was just like, okay, here we go. Let me buy ETH for $1,200. Like, let me do a little trade here, because I think it could go to 1,000. I think it could go sub 1,000, but it's not going to go there in a straight line. But I was like, man, this is pretty wild. At the same time, gas was so crazy high at that point because of all the panic selling going on. We're set up for crypto to have its worst week since early November of last year. And for anyone thinking to themselves, okay, this is a good time to buy. It's been a bad week, but we're going to bounce back. Not so fast, my friends. Let's look into earlier in 2022, just the brutal week after brutal week after brutal week. There's still a lot on the monthly charts that suggest that we remain in the overbought territory, that there's still plenty of room to the downside. So it was a nice drop. If you happened to be, playing with size and it was worth the gas price to buy ETH at 1550 and you were able to catch that bounce and sell in the 17s, that was a hell of a swing trade, hell of a short-term play. I did not, and I'm still just patiently waiting because I want to buy, Bitcoin when it's cheaper. I will say one thing. I know this is going to piss Kevin off, but I do have some DCAs started on just for a little bit on Bitcoin and ETH because I'm not trying to perfectly time the bottom. I just think that I'm ready to accumulate a little bit here and there. So nothing significant, but I'm okay. And I think for most people, not financial advice, trying to trade is not the right way. Trying to accumulate, and you don't need to be perfect. You just need to have a little bit of skin in the games and put it in at the right point. So do I expect it to go lower? Yes. Do I mind accumulating at these numbers if I think it's going to do a 3, 4, 5x from here long term? Not at all. So that is one thing that I've started doing is I've turned the DCAs for Bitcoin and ETH back on just a little bit, but those are really the only two for me right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not gonna get too upset about that. Do I think it's gonna go a lot lower and you can use your money to buy, have better purchasing power against some of these assets? Absolutely. I mean, it's probably what I'm doing right now. Like I said, I've been DCAing into oil and energy, natural gas, so USO, UNG. But I mean, for the most part, I'm just trying to keep as much cash as possible on hand so I can buy if it goes lower. And I think that's not necessarily a bad strategy, even if you're looking at that in crypto, right? Just making sure that you're not dumping it all around here. Make sure you definitely save some powder because it's going to be a lot lower. And even when it does go a lot lower, just make sure you still have cash on hand. It's not financial advice. It's just good to have cash on hand always in case there's opportunity or if something in life comes up, right? That's one thing I've definitely learned from the past. Usually, when we get closer to the bottom, that's when I personally deploy more of my cash into something, and then take a little bit of each dip if possible on the way down. But for right now, I do think that it's going to go a lot lower. So I haven't been buying into crypto at all. I haven't closed any of my shorts. I still have my Binance short open. I feel a little bit more confident and comfortable after seeing what happened yesterday. And I think that should be the case for a lot of things. We'll look at the charts in a little bit, but some of those upper targets, we broke through some important levels and we closed below them. And obviously, we're going to wait till Sunday to see how the weekly closes for a lot of things like Bitcoin and Ethereum to see if this is a long lasting move, which I do think it is. I think this is a pretty substantial move. And anything that's going to be a bounce up is going to be short lived, like we said on the show yesterday. Uh, I'm at fault yesterday for what I said. I said that I don't expect anything crazy to happen, until the weekly close. I was wrong. As soon as Evergrande came out, the market absolutely just ripped. So we've been anticipating this move to the downside for a while. It's just I didn't expect it to go as fast as it did, and obviously that just shows you how dangerous this market is. And if short-term liquidity is drying up, which we are seeing in China, watch out. Contagions, just a knock away.
Just because we're moving into hoodie season doesn't mean that you can give up on your shorts quite yet. Okay. So we have seen Bitcoin dominance take a little bit of a hit. I think, if you're looking at TradingView, that's one of two things: is another glitch in the market cap of altcoins. In total three, you tweeted out. I mean, total three is below that 330 billion number that you had discussed, Kevin. It's at 322, potentially 320 if the data is incorrect. But at the same time, we've also seen more and more money move into stables. We see USDT and USDC combining for about 10.6% of the crypto market cap right now. That is that number continues to trend up. If you look at the charts for those, if you look at the weekly for USDT dominance, it's moved up for the last 5 weeks. So we're seeing people are just comfortably parked in stables right now. At some point, that's going to turn. That's going to be an opportunity to get back in before they do. But it's it's a reminder that we still have some work to be done here. Now, let's talk about the Evergrande thing for a bit. This has been, Evergrande has been a thorn in the market side for years now. This started back in 2020. I believe the Chinese government intervened. And to put the icing on the cake today, Jim Cramer tweeted that he doesn't think this is a very big deal for the China recovery. And so, I mean, watch out below. That was just the icing on the cake of
What
an
a
absolute
fucker.
shitstorm that could be coming. I mean, he had to say something, didn't he? He
He
had
had
to.
to.
He couldn't have been like, yeah, I think this is pretty bad. Ace, good to see you. Mr.
Same here,
House,
guys.
that is all I want for Christmas as well. Randy, yes, please 20K
Oh
Bitcoin,
no,
maybe lower.
we need to bring this
Kevin's
up.
calling for 1K Bitcoin.
This is where we need all you want for Christmas is 30-cent Matic by December 5th. That's the key, all right? That's the way that everyone wins on the show except JWeb, and that's what we want. Just kidding, JWeb. Love you, buddy. But yeah, it's insane. We're not too far off from that bet, right? We're in the home stretch. We got a few months left, and it's ticking down fast. So that's gonna come down to the fucking wire, isn't it?
It looks like it. We're gonna have a countdown clock. We're gonna be live
Doomsday
on
clock.
stream. Doomsday clock. Yeah, how many minutes till midnight? Just watching that one, and that big $100 bet that is gonna put me in diamonds and furs. I can't wait to win that one. But yes, it's gonna come down to the wire. Alt's not looking good, man. I don't really see where a lot of money is going to be coming back into the market anytime soon. The timing of everything yesterday was just incredible.
Oh yeah.
We had the Evergrande news break, then we had the inaccurate report that SpaceX had sold $373 million worth of Bitcoin, when in reality they had to go back and correct it, stating that SpaceX had written it down, something along those lines. And then we had the news that which helped cause the bounce of the ETH ETF that may be approved by the SEC. Like, all of these, the timing of all of this was like, if I believed in conspiracies, I would think that something was a little fishy there, Kevin.
Oh yeah, I could definitely smell some sushi around here somewhere, but that was just like, all right, bad news, good news, good news. Confuse the fucking markets. That's pretty much
Yeah.
what happened, right? Yeah, I mean, I remember you texted me that Evergrande shit, and I was just like, well, I know what we're gonna talk about on tomorrow's show, and then next thing you know, everything just absolutely collapsed, and then they stopped the bleeding. They just put out some news. They blamed it on Elon, being like, "Oh, Elon's dumbass sold at the bottom once again." Here's the thing. All right. Again, it was reported inaccurately, but also, do you really think that these fucking whales are gonna lose and you're gonna win? I'm sorry. I have to be realistic here. Do you really think that these people that have this much money know, and and are market makers, absolutely right? Even if they're not trying to be, they can move the market in any way they possibly can. Do you think they're going to lose? That they've been de-risking since FTX so that you could buy in there and then you could win going all the way up, longing from 30K up? No, these guys know exactly where this market's going. They understand that liquidity in the short term is drying up. That's why we're seeing bits, sell off of assets, right? That's why we're also not seeing any money come into the markets. And even if when we look at the volumes on the chart, yesterday's volume is nothing compared to what we saw back when the markets were pumping, back in Silicon Valley Bank. Like, the volume is still extremely low, despite how much it moved yesterday. So once the volumes do start rolling, then we need to be worried. And I don't think that we're out of the woods with Evergrande one bit. I think that's really what caused this market to collapse yesterday. I think that scared a lot of maybe institutional investors to get out of their positions, and then it just kept on going down so fast because there was nobody ready to buy at those levels, that it was just 100% hitting stop limits, and then people kept on getting liquidated and kept on pushing down. There was a lot of longs in the space. It was easy to liquidate everyone. And again, with Evergrande's in China, this Evergrande right now is just a private sector issue, but it definitely can bleed into the public sector. And I think that's what a lot of people in China are absolutely afraid of. And once it does, that's absolutely, all hell will break loose, right? And I think that's why the markets today in TradFi aren't necessarily as bad as we were anticipating. But I mean, I was watching Bloomberg last night and they didn't say shit about Evergrande, not one thing on there. And I was watching the Asian market open and there was nowhere to be seen. But then you look at the Hang Seng and it's down 400 points, 2% in close on the end of the week. So it's definitely something that we're not hearing in the US, but it's definitely something you need to be keeping in your eye on. And I think this was a test dump. This wasn't capitulation. I think it was a test dump leading into what's probably going to be coming next. And we'll look at it in the charts in a minute, but I don't even know where I'm at. I'm so flustered and I'm so jacked to the tits right now with how much, everything happened yesterday. But yeah, I think we have a big problem with just believing that anything that comes out in the news is fact, when 100%, I think they played that to their advantage.
Everything has been a sell the news event lately.
Exactly.
There has not been a single thing. If it seems like good news for crypto, it's just
Bad
been an
news.
opportunity for people to sell into that news. Next week, I think, is really fascinating because I think it's a really important week on the technical side if you are a trader. Like I said, for most people, I don't day trade because I will get my lunch eaten there. I know the big boys are going to beat me up. That's not my thing. But if you are trading, if you're trying to be active there, there's very little data coming out next week. I'm looking at it now, and we really don't have a whole lot of anything until Friday, when we hear from Thursday and Friday, when we hear from Fed officials in Jackson Hole. Other than that, like, there's no news Monday. There's some home sale data on Tuesday. There's some services and manufacturing data on Wednesday, but those things don't really move the markets. So I think it's a really important week. We have NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday. That's going to be an important one. We'll probably go live for that just so we can kind of see how the markets react. But otherwise, I think looking at the technicals ahead of next week, and why I want to spend so much of today's show on that, and we can, I think, looking at them, but trying to keep it simple,
Yep.
Kev, is the right way to take it, because I think next week is going to be a very technically driven week in the markets, where we don't have as much macro data, like I said, to make decisions based off of. And the markets are going to still open. Like, markets are going to move no matter what. Crypto is going to be open nonstop. So I think looking at the technicals and having an understanding of where we could go not financial advice, yada yada yada, could provide some opportunities if people are a little scared or paralyzed at the moment of how things are going to happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, right? When we don't have news, it's kind of hard for people to price things in necessarily. So we have to go resort to the technicals and see where, support and resistance levels are, and seeing what people in general are doing, right? It's going to be really important. Let's actually jump into the charts now, if you don't mind. I think there's some important stuff we could take a look at. I want to take a look at the dollar first, because the dollar is something we haven't taken a look at in a while, but for the most part, has been very strong, right? We can go down here and we can see that the dollar is 100% and a move to the upside. It broke through the 50 and the 200 EMA on the daily. However, it is completely overbought on the daily stochastic RSI. It's at 100 and 100. I would anticipate some move to the downside. That would make the most amount of sense. I mean, if we look at the weekly as well, we can see we're probably going to close the weekly into the overbought territory. So we're overbought on the daily, overbought on the weekly, probably in 4 hours from now. But we're above the 50 and we're above the 200 EMA. So these are necessarily bullish conditions for the dollar, right? I do think that the dollar is likely to continue to the upside. I think that we're putting in a bull flag here, and it's probably going to break to the upside. The question is there going to be something in the future that is going to hinder the dollar's performance, right? Um, Obviously, a rate cut is the one thing that's kind of scary. If rates start getting cut back, likely the dollar is going to tank. Risk assets have a better chance of pushing up in that time. Maybe it could stay elevated, but money is definitely going to flow from somewhere, from this place to another, as we're seeing in crypto. I'd be keeping an eye on just seeing the performance of the dollar. I'm not going to get too overly bullish on it. Like I was talking about maybe even like 122. I think there's a good chance that we're going to put in a lower high for the dollar, and that's just given everything that's going on right now. I think that the inflation over in Japan is definitely going to allow the Bank of Japan to do something in the near term to the point where it's going to help their dollar, right? The yen's probably going to get some more dominance over the entire forex market. They have to raise rates at some point just to save their economy. I think the yuan is getting some strength today as well, right? We saw that it was trading at an estimated value of 7.2 last night when the Asian markets opened, when their true value was at 7.3. So very interesting to see that there. China's definitely, I think that they're also lowering rates in China too. They're just trying to save their country at this point. Deflation's a huge stressor on their economy, and if it continues to persist, then obviously we could see more fallout. So I think they're trying to quantitatively ease the economy right now, and that's going to impact the dollar regardless. So dollar for the time being, it looks pretty good. I am changing my position that I think that this is going to go up a lot higher. I think that we're going to put in a lower high. I think this should break this channel, right? It should go into above this bull flag, maybe into one of these lower levels of resistance. I think 105, 104, 105 is a pretty good level where we find some resistance and we come down a little bit. Maybe we push up to 107, but I think no further than 109. I think 107 would be the sweet spot right now going into September, October. And that's just because I think there's a lot of stuff on the macro for a lot of other countries when it comes to their currencies as well. So keep an eye on the dollar for right now. That's why we're also seeing some things push down, because the dollar is so strong, but it also tells me that there's not a lot of confidence in some of these equities. They're moving into the dollar. So that's keep that in mind when you're looking at these charts. I want to go into crypto because obviously that's the behemoth that took a face plant yesterday. This is the weekly chart. And I want to get rid of, we just want to let you know, I got rid of the 34, 35K up there. I don't think that's happening now. Could it? Sure. I just don't think it is happening now. I think that we closed pretty significantly yesterday to the point where we got this push to the upside on the way down, and we went below the 50 moving average, and we went close to, but we didn't test the 200 EMA. And the level that we actually went down to was like 25,192 or something like that. 166, my bad. But we knew that 25,280 was a level of, extreme support for a while. And we went past it, right? But we pushed right above it. So we found out that support once again. We've done that twice now. We did that back in, I believe, late June, maybe early July. Yeah, June right here. We came all the way down here. We went below 25,280, but then it bounced up. And we got this push to the upside into the supply zone where they were able to sell again. Then we had that slow bleed until we got to where we are here. And it looks like we pushed up once again. So we've hit it once, twice. Now, the next time it happens, I don't think it's going to hold. That's just my opinion. I think that we're going to crash through 25,280, and likely it's going to go down to, maybe that 21, 22 that I was talking about back in June. does it bounce from there maybe to the upside? Yeah, I think there's a good chance it could bounce from there. It's going to trade. It's not going to go down in straight lines, despite whatever these weekly candles look like. I mean, if you look at the daily candle for this guy, it looks like it's going down in straight lines, but for the most part, it was a continuation pattern of the trend. We knew that the trend was to the downside, and there we go, right through the 15 to 200 EMA. And here's the thing too, we're starting to close outside of this parallel channel. This was a bear flag that we've been saying, we've been putting in since the beginning of November, so FTX. And well, we finally broke through it. We tested it here, we tested it here, tested it here. So on the fourth try, we broke through it. Now the question is, are we going to ever go back into it? I don't necessarily think we are, because what I've been seeing from people buying back from those lows is once we were starting to see a lot of people buy back, we started seeing a lot of supply enter the exchanges. We saw a lot of people, putting money on Coinbase, on Kraken, Binance, just trying to. I'm assuming that if you're putting 80 million plus onto these exchanges, your intention is to sell, right? So I think that they're just trying to get out of the market at this point because maybe they don't see more upside. I would be interested to see how the wallet counts look for people with a lot of Bitcoin in them. I'll have to take a look at that and get back to you guys on Monday. But right now, I think that this is an important close on the daily. We broke out of this parallel channel. We're below it. We're below the 200 EMA on the daily. And on the weekly, we're out of this channel. And if we close this weekly outside of this, for me, I think that we're seeing something that's going to be a bigger issue. And again, this 200 EMA is at 24,648. I think we will close below that. We're probably going to go closer to that 21, 22K level. That's my target right now. I mean, we could even just wick down to 23, but I think we are going to cross below this 200 EMA. Doesn't have to happen today, but it could be happening over the next week or so. And then maybe we see a little bit of a relief rally going into September. October, right? I think that it's very possible that we are putting in something similar that we always talk about, like a bear flag where it kind of pushes up. But this would be on the smaller time frames, and this would be that short-lived rally that I talked about yesterday. I think we're going to see more impulsive moves down, and we're going to see shorter, corrective waves up. So that's what I'm seeing with Bitcoin. Nothing too crazy on here, but closing out of this parallel channel is a huge loss for Bitcoin. We can see that the volumes are still extremely low. So that's all the selling came in with low volume, and we're not seeing the volume come in to buy it back up like we saw the volume come in here to buy it all this back up from January to even March when we had Silicon Valley, which is the height of this volume bar here. So for me, I don't see a lot of confidence in Bitcoin for the time being. I think this Evergrande thing is definitely going to be a huge hindrance on crypto itself. I think that a lot of liquidity is drying up in the Asian markets, and that's not going to be good if the U.S. is pretty much the only people that are holding a lot of this Bitcoin. So keep that in mind where the money is. I'm going to go into you want to do ETH next?
Let's look at Ace's question here real quick, and we can
see it.
Chart for BNB if you would like, but kind of a long one here around rumors involving Binance and loan liquidations at that $212 level. I will say part of yesterday's ETH crash, I think, was something that Mr. House pointed out to us, which was a big loan for ETH on Aave, a huge liquidation level, and we did see that when 1675 was breached, ETH just continued to crash through that. So good call up by Mr. House. But as you've read through Ace's question here, what are your thoughts on that?
Ace, I did not know this was a rumor. However, I did know that 212 level is vital for Binance. Again, BAM trading is I think it's on Sigma chain. There was a liquidation level that they were dealing with that was around that level. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's why we saw Bitcoin tumble so much. Again, they're trying to save face, right? I think there are questions of insolvency going on there. And then I don't necessarily see a lot of money coming out of TUSD. We'll look at TUSD right now because obviously that was like a money printer for them for a period of time when BUSD got capped. But we could see that, let's go to the daily. This is such a bad chart for TUSD too because it doesn't go every single day. So it'll be like Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like it doesn't go in like single days. It goes on whenever they print money. It doesn't update accurately all the time. But we could see that's, we're at 2.75 billion, and Bitcoin's probably been coming down since a few days back, right? It's been kind of going sideways. So maybe they did sell off some of their TUSD to buy into some of that, but I don't necessarily see it from this chart. Maybe they had some TUSD on the side as is where they were able to dump it in. But I wouldn't be surprised if they saw what was happening and they decided to start selling, because once we we saw Evergrande. It didn't happen right away. It happened delayed. It was like about 5 minutes or so after the Evergrande news broke that we started seeing a lot of the selling come in, right? Usually when we get news like say CPI or FOMC, it's like instantly, right? Money starts moving. We see the charts going crazy, but it was kind of like this standstill. So that could have been Binance absolutely selling some of their BTC, and it just caused a ton of landslide effects in crypto itself. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's true, man. I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but we saw that it went right to 213 and it bounced straight up. So that 212 level is kind of sacred for them. Honestly, if that's the case, I mean, like this game could be over fairly soon. So I'll do some more research on that. Keep you guys posted because I don't know, man. Sigma Chain, BAM Trading, Binance. It's the illusion of them being solvent is something that I think is very fragile and that could shatter at any given time. And we know that this market is not in the strongest place right now. It's an extremely fragile market. So yeah, good call there, bringing that up. I'll take a look into that. But it seems wouldn't be out of I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually true. Let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum is I don't even know where I have Ethereum on this chart. There it is. Ethereum is very similar to Bitcoin. And again, we talked about this yesterday with that Matic chart being very similar to Ethereum, but it bled bad yesterday. I mean, we went all the way down to 1542, right? This thing was down. I looked at the chart and it was down $200. And it's probably more of that, but it was down like $200 on the negative on the side. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? The ETH has not moved for the longest time. It's been so boring. It's been 18, 18.5, 19, 18.5, 18, 18.5. It's been doing this all fucking summer, right? Finally, it broke and it broke bad. It went down to that 1542 level. And once again, very similar to Bitcoin, it broke out of this parallel channel. It's been trading for a while. Matic did the same thing. And Matic's, descent has been, it's been terrible. It has not been a graceful descent for Matic one bit. If we look at the weekly, we went right to the 200 EMA, went below it, and then it popped back up above it, right? So that tells me that, we're finding some support in the 200 EMA. We're kind of stuck in between the 50 and 200 on the weekly, but we are probably going to close this weekly outside of this parallel channel once again. Very similar to Bitcoin. That's not a good look because we haven't closed out of this channel. We, hit our ass here, hit our ass here, hit our ass here. Fourth time, just like Bitcoin, it crashed through it.
And then the ass just exploded on the weekly.
Exactly, man. I mean, shit everywhere. That's why you got to always wear your depends. But looking at this right here, this is not a good sign if we see that each time that the market hits this bottom and it bounces, but the one time it doesn't, everything falls through together. It tells me that market strength in general is dog shit, right? It's dog shit wrapped in cat shit if you're a Big Short fan. But yeah, I'm not seeing any confidence from Ethereum. Again, the weekly, sure, it looks like it's going to get to oversold fairly fast. However, that monthly is what you need to keep in mind. That monthly came down right to the 50 moving average and it bounced from it. I don't necessarily think that we're going to find this to be the strongest of support if everything else is going to be following suit to the downside. And, this parallel channel and with this, three-wave count to the downside that I'm seeing, I can safely say I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this B wave move to the upside was put in back here, and we're on our descent down. And I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on that. I don't think we're going to see the price push up. The price been pushing up as volumes have been dropping.
The Moon Boys will argue because it'll get more clicks to say that no, that was just a temporary bottom and we're going back up here.
I've seen a lot of people say that. I just don't. I don't listen to stupidity most of the time. I think that if you
people are like, I hope you're like your last chance at buying ETH in the 1500s. It's like, okay, bud.
Yeah, it really is because pretty soon it's gonna be the fucking 1400s. The next thing you know, it's gonna be 1083, and then it'll be 626, and I don't know where it'll bottom, but somewhere around there. But yeah, it's absolutely insane that people are thinking like this is a great fucking opportunity to buy everything, and it's like you've been saying that all the way down. He said that shit when ETH was at $2,000, and then he said the same thing when ETH was at $3,000. I'm talking obviously back here, right? Back in 2021 and 2022 as it was coming down. But I mean, people say that all the time, and then it just keeps dipping because again, they don't understand that there's a lot more things in play here than just what the charts are saying. And you can hodl, but you're going to be hodling for about 3 years before you maybe even see some of those returns get back to the levels that you bought in. So with ETH right here, I think it's going down a lot further. I don't think that comes to any surprise. I think we put the top in here, closing out of this parallel channel, this weekly candle, not a good sign. Could we, on the shorter time frames, keep pushing up? Like, let's look at the 4-hourly real quick. Could we start pushing up in like a parallel channel going like this? Yeah, absolutely. Eventually it's going to break. Do we test this again? Maybe. I will say that maybe there's a chance that you could test this at 1805. I would be more likely to say that it doesn't happen, but I'll give you enough what do you call it, opportunity for that to happen, and I'll say that sure, there's like a 20% chance that it does hit that. I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen. I don't think there's any liquidity in the market. That's why we haven't seen it go back to exactly where it crashed from. But yeah, I think that's, people are going to buy this, and you're giving everybody the opportunity to sell it as it goes up. Two more things we're going to look at. We're just going to look at total one and then total three. This is total one, or I don't even know why I call it total one. It's just total. But we can see what happened, right?
We came dangerously close to being outside of 1 trillion.
Exactly, and that's been our target, right? Let's see where we were. Oh no, we did. I think we did go below 1 trillion.
Yeah, we went down to
992 billion.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
we wicked down to it.
That's, I mean, hey, we went there, right? We were there for a period of time, and we see that it's dropping 102.9 trillion, right? Remember, this is 1.13 a few days ago. It was, but it's not anymore. But yeah, this played out perfectly. This was a head and shoulders pattern, 100%. Hasn't broken yet. I mean, we broke through this little part here. We're still waiting for this little move to the downside. I don't think it's going to be a gradual move like that. I think I'm anticipating it to be pretty violent. But also looking at the daily, right? So maybe it does play out like this until like November. So maybe that's right. That's right. I take that back. But this head and shoulders pattern, it played out. We're in a parallel channel. We broke from it. This is the total market cap of crypto. If the total market cap of crypto breaks a parallel channel and there's a head and shoulders within it, does that give you a lot of confidence in the space? No, it does not. And again, I think a lot of people were talking about Bitcoin dominance going down here. And they're like, oh, Bitcoin dominance is going down. That means it's a great time to buy alts. All that money is pretty much tied up in stable coins. That money will go back into Bitcoin at some point, but right for the time being, it's in stable coins because people sold off a lot of their Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now it's just parked on the side. Whether they meant to do that or not, it's just going to naturally be sitting in Tether, USDC. So total market cap, I honestly think that 875 billion is probably going to be a big target for it. That'd be right here, this where the left shoulder and the head meet in that bottom of that parallel channel. I think that's going to be extreme support. I think we're going to crash this 974 support. I think we're going to go closer to this 875. And that's just a start, right? I think I'm just being realistic with where targets are going to be from this break. Again, we just broke it. There's still a lot more down. I mean, we could look at the Binance chart and I could show you exactly how when things break, they break pretty significantly. They shouldn't just break a little bit and then keep going up. But yeah, I think this is going to break pretty significantly to the 875 mark. We already crossed the $1 trillion mark, so I'm not necessarily going to say, oh, we need to get under $1 trillion again. It's going to be there. We're literally like, I don't know, an inch above $1 trillion market cap right now. It's nothing. If we look at total three, this is the wild one. And here's the thing with total three, why it's going up. And I think a lot of people need to keep this in mind. You brought it up earlier before the show. This does include stablecoins. Right. And if stablecoin dominance is going up because people sold off, likely this is going to go up. Just natural way that things work out. I would have to subtract the stablecoins from there, or you just pull up the other chart that has this excluded from stablecoins. But I don't have that ready right now. And I do want to remind you that they still have that one chart where it added $3 billion. That $3 billion candle is still accounted for this. So we're not actually at 322. I believe that we're actually closer to 319-ish, around there for total market cap for crypto for total three. And I want to just go as low as we did yesterday. We went all the way down to around $307 billion. I said that we'd be under 300 billion fairly soon. And that was roughly around when it was 339 billion, I think. Even up to $356 billion, we were saying that it would be under 300 billion very soon. We're not too far off from there. I don't think, right? Maybe we see a bit of a recovery here, and on the shorter time frames, like I said, for Ethereum, like this is what I was looking at. I think it's gonna be patterns like this, breaks down, maybe puts in another pattern. Maybe you can even extend this to like that. And we just keep breaking it. In lower time frames, it's overbought on the hourly already. If you look at the 4 hourly, it's going closer to the overbought fairly soon. So this is another reason why we need to keep looking at the lower time frames compared to the higher time frames. Because again, I think we talked about this really well, but the stochastic RSI is an oscillating momentum indicator. And if we see that on the shorter time frames that these small moves to the upside are getting pretty close to overbought, that tells you that the momentum that there is behind people buying is very weak as opposed to very strong. And if we see that on the shorter time frames, and then we see that the macro is pretty strong in terms of a lot of room to the downside, it's likely that you're not going to see a huge push to the upside unless again manipulation, whether Binance is selling BTC for TUSD and pushing the price up that way artificially, or just a ton of money comes in artificially in some way. Again, stablecoins seem to be pretty dangerous in this market, propped up this market for a long time, in my opinion. But I think that if we're seeing these lower time frames get overbought very fast, I think it's going to be more of a push to the downside, and it also fits our thesis of thinking that more impulsive waves down and shorter corrective waves up. So this is what I would be anticipating. We would see stuff like this, big move, a little bit of a recovery, bigger move, a little bit of a recovery, bigger move. That's the type of like impulsive structure that I anticipate for a lot of things. And we saw it yesterday, right? It came down, a little bit of recovery, down, a little bit of recovery. And then obviously it either comes down or it starts a new structure and then it would break again. So seeing this right here, just what you need to keep in mind is that we have very much so pushed down pretty good in this channel. I think that will be below 300 billion fairly soon, maybe in the next month or two. Again, I'm being conservative with some of those time estimates because I think that there is a possibility that we trade sideways for a bit, cool off, allow more people to get out of the market, out of their positions. But for the most part, this doesn't look good, right? Again, we saw how much money dropped that fast. There's a lot of USDT that's parked on the sides that isn't necessarily flowing into alts right away. I don't know. I remain bearish. I don't think that comes as any fucking surprise. And again, with how much we pushed down this week, if we get closer down there, obviously that would have made this 15 to 200 EMA cross a lot faster. But these are going to be very close very soon. I think that by the end of September, we'll have our death cross already put in. You can hold me to that, but I think it's inevitable at this point. So do I think the end of the market is here? Can't guarantee you that, but I definitely do think that we are going to be seeing a lot of red days ahead in the coming months, and that we are not necessarily in the best place right now for thinking that this is an altcoin run, even if the price is a lot cheaper than it was the day prior.
Ace bringing up the potential DeFi liquidations coming to ETH.
That's a good point.
That's definitely something to keep an eye on. It's things are going to move quickly, and
exactly.
I'm still just very content, being patient, waiting for the come down because it's inevitable at this point. Like there's no buying strength in crypto right now. There just isn't. Like the people who have the money to move the markets are just patiently waiting, and they're waiting because they've been through market cycles before, and we still have, I can just see from like sentiment that there is still plenty of people to be shaken out. Like there hasn't been enough pain quite yet. We haven't fully reached capitulation.
No one freaked out.
The same way. No one really, like there was a little bit of panic, but then it bounced to be like, oh, okay, so the ETF is coming, so that's going to save us, and that's going to send us to 10K.
Fuck that ETF. Shove it up your ass sideways. I don't want to hear about this ETF ever again. Again, I'm just so tired of people saying, oh, they're the fucking ETF. They're having Bitcoin's going to $180,000. Guys, be honest with you. Just
what I don't get is why the people, if you've been paying attention to all the news this week, it was a couple days ago where it came out that like, hey, the Bitcoin ETF not getting approved, maybe like Q2 of next year. Yeah. And all of a sudden, people see this ETH ETF news and they're like, yep, they're not going to approve Bitcoin, but the ETH one is definitely coming. That's for sure happening. And if that's what is getting people to hold on right now, the second that we hear news that, just kidding, they're going to delay that one too. Everyone's talking about like, oh, well, Vitalik is on good terms with Gary Gensler. Like, no one's on good terms with Gary Gensler.
This is the thing that's pissing me off, though. How people are like, fuck BlackRock. They're trying to make you sell it so they can buy cheaper. It's like, no shit. Why are you making this sound like this is a novel idea? Do you know what I mean? It just pisses me off because it's like, all right, yeah, that's true. However, that's not the reason why the market fucking dumped. All right. The market dumped because, let's put it this way, China, who has the most amount of US debt, is just like, yo, we need cash now, sell everything. That's pretty much what happened, right? We know that Binance has so much money, or China has so much money tied up in Binance, even though crypto is illegal technically in China. They account for the most of their fucking revenue. And that's probably why we saw the most amount of liquidations on Binance itself. But it's like, there's it's we're stuck in these echo chambers of like, okay, BlackRock bad, Gary Gensler bad, CZ good, Sam Bankman-Fried bad, once good, but now he's bad, Do Kwon bad. It's like we're just repeating these same fucking narratives, but we're not paying attention to what's really going on in the world. Quit listening to what everyone else is saying and just follow the fucking money, because that's going to give you the answer. Money speaks louder than words, and you could just tell that there's no money coming in. So what does that tell you right now? There's no one that's going to come and save you. That's what I'm seeing from this market. There's no one coming to save you at all. I'm
Literally,
sorry.
no one is coming to save you. None, like Uncle Larry at BlackRock does not give a baker's fuck about anyone. He just wants to try to make as much money as possible. So getting excited about BlackRock, like, yes, could it bring more money into the market? Absolutely. But, they're not looking out for anyone but their own bottom line. So take everything with a grain of salt, for the love of God. Yeah, go watch Margin Call this weekend. Go watch The Big Short this weekend. Things are going to close here in 18 minutes on the TradFi side. It looks like it's making a small little push to the upside as the markets begin to wrap on the day. The VIX is coming down. We see, it's going to end pretty flat, it would appear. Crypto is starting to come back down a little bit. We're seeing looks like Bitcoin is fighting for 26K. ETH is in the mid 1600s. Maybe we'll get another Friday night dump like we did a few nights ago. Maybe the markets will eat some Taco Bell late night, and then we'll all wake up tomorrow to more blood in the water. Who knows? But that is going to wrap it up for today's show. We appreciate everybody for being here. Once again, hit those buttons down below. Like, comment, share us out on social, subscribe to our channel. All of those things matter. Appreciate everyone. It's been a great week of shows. Many, many, many more to come. This bear market's going to shake out a lot of people, but sure as fuck isn't going to shake out us. So have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Take care, everyone.